Also, I literally look like I haven't slept. Like my eyes are so puffy.
Well, you haven't. You've been
Yeah,
going for
it's
4 days
true.
straight.
For like 2 weeks now, I feel like
Yeah, literally.
it's been like a
Since
crazy
the
two
week
weeks.
before Christmas. Yeah.
I miss just working.
Just sitting, just laying, being
Tell me you
horizontal with
have a
my
working
laptop.
problem.
Yeah, right.
Literally. Whoever would have thought I'd say I miss just like
Working.
working.
Sometimes I do
Yeah,
though. Or like it feels
I
so
know.
good to just like get things done after having to put them off
Yeah,
for a long time.
I've been overstimming for a long time.
You've been like in a constant state of overstimulation for
Yeah.
a long time.
But it's all good things, so it is exciting. But
Yeah,
anyway,
it's
I'm
all
really
good
excited
things.
about this.
Yes, very excited
Very
about
excited about
this.
this.
We today, first of all, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Socially
Hi.
Unfiltered podcast. If you don't already, follow us on Instagram at Socially Unfiltered Pod. Today, we're going to talk about something that we have kind of been talking a lot about to each other for a couple months, and we're finally ready to put it out into the world, which is very exciting.
This is for our social media managers, our little community of y'all that are here.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we mentioned this like, I don't know, a couple months ago. We're like, something's coming. And I feel like no one really caught on to that then because no one like really said anything. And I was like, okay, good. Because it took us a little bit to like put in a lot of
Yes.
freaking time to this and get it how we want it to like be perfect for everyone and make sure that we like hit every single point that we want to.
Mm-hmm.
So, should we say what it is? Enough of the
Yes, we
jabba
should.
jabba.
We have something for our social media managers. And if you're a small business listening to this, we are coming for you next. But social media managers, we officially have something for you.
So, it is the Social Media Manager Business Blueprint,
Woohoo.
SMMBB.
BB, baby.
Yes, and what it is a 25-day guide, ebook, however you want to look at it, to everything you need to establish your business, create your social media management business, how to run accounts. And we'll get into this in like a second, but it's just the overview of every single step you need to start this business, the things that you don't need in the beginning. We basically cover step A to Z of how to become a social media manager. And we've talked about this, and I know there's so many programs, there's so many master classes, there's so many courses, just like all feeding you BS of buying into it and then being promised 10K in sales and that you would have 5 clients right after you finish their course. And this is not that. And we won't promise you anything except our real, raw, true opinion and advice that we can give you. So if you've been listening to us on the podcast, you know we don't sugarcoat shit, and we aren't just over here like start your dream life and build your business and it's
If I did
all
it, you can do it too.
yes. We aren't those bitches. So don't expect that out of this. But
Yeah, and I think that's an extremely well spoken roundup of everything that's in here. Cause I think it's kind of funny. Like, we are just so excited to put this out that, like, we really haven't fully established like a lot of the lingo around how we'll actually be talking about this. But I think one of the
mhm,
best ways to explain it is that it's the foundations. Like, a lot of what we have in here isn't just here's how to create a reel using a trending audio, because
mhm,
that process might look completely different in a week from now just because Instagram is always moving things around. But what this is again, step by step. We have it listed out as 25 days because personally we just think it's good for organization to focus on one of these steps at a time. But a lot of these things
mhm,
are very easily completed in less than a day. So it might take you a little less than the 25 days, which is totally
mhm.
okay. Love the perseverance and attitude to get shit done. Um, but yeah, it's everything. So we'll go through everything that's in there today. I think we're just gonna go day by day and just kind of say a little bit about what's inside. But we are so excited to finally have this out, especially because we both have done things in the past I think two is better than one, like both of our brains coming together on this. I know that
Right.
this information from both of our brains instead of us separately will be super helpful to somebody. And again, it's just the foundations. They're things that you need to do in order to start working towards those $10,000 months, because we'll never say that that's unrealistic. It's just not where you
Mhm.
should be focusing in the beginning. So, our suggestion is to focus on the blueprint alone, go through it on its own, soak in everything that's in there, and then from there, kind of decide where you want to start investing a little bit more of your education and where you want to learn a little bit more. But
And also want to note this is not us saying that in 25 days you are just going to be like the social media manager with all these clients. Like, again, want to preface we are not for the like BS of being like, oh, in 25 days, you are just all set and you'll have all these clients and you'll have a business and it's going to be so easy. Like, some of these days, especially the legality, the branding, like all of those
Mhm.
aspects are going to take you a little bit. So, don't look at this and be like, "Oh, I only have 25 days. Like, why am I not finishing this in 25 days or whatever?" Like, take it at your own pace. If it takes you 3 to 6 months, it takes you 3 to 6 months. But just know that those guidelines are there and like those check off dates are there where we can keep you organized and you'll have your to do list of what to do for each day. So everything is like super, super organized thanks to Lex being so type A. We love it. But just know that it's not a rush to finish this in 25 days, nor are
Yes.
we promising that you will know everything in 25 days. This is just the easiest way for us to set this up of day by day and having, each title go into their own separate day. It just happened to be 25 days. So there's no like, it's not like we're saying it's only going to be 25 days or 30 days till 10K months. So just know that it's okay to take it at your own pace.
Yes, it's totally fine if you don't finish it in 25 days, because exactly like you said, a lot of the stuff, branding and legality especially, is probably
Hmm.
going to take a little bit more than one day to figure out. But the way that we have it structured is we at least are giving you the rundown on these things so that you can then start to create your own kind of back end to do list of things that you either need to like continuously research, just because a lot of the stuff too, like, depends on where you live. It depends on what
Right.
your different state and countries kind of laws are on a lot of the stuff. But mostly just for the legality section, yes, that's probably not something that you'll necessarily finish in one day, especially because when you're, registering for EIN numbers and bank accounts and stuff, it doesn't usually just happen instantly. So, yes, it's okay if it does not take you 25 days to complete, but a lot of the stuff on here, again, it's at least you can get through the notes that we have about it in a short amount of time, because we cut out the bullshit, we cut out the fat. Like, it is literally just the information that you need. And yes, should have totally mentioned how it's set up, because that is one of my favorite parts about it. So, this is
Hmm.
not like hosted through a platform. It's not something that you have to log in for. It's literally what we're sending you is all created in a way that you can copy it over into your Google Drive. And then you have your entire blueprint set up for you on a Google Sheet. And there are links to notes about each of the days. There's the checklists for you to actually keep track of what you have done and what you still need to do. So, how it's set up is one of my favorite things about it, just because in the past I've done a lot of like, here's a shit ton of text and here's some videos to go along with it. And this is way more like, if you're somebody who likes to
Hmm.
be handed a list and you like to just go down the list and do everything on
Yeah.
the list, this is for you, which I know we both are very much like that. So I'm super excited for
Yeah.
everybody to start seeing this. But yeah, should we dive into what's actually inside of it?
Mhm. For sure. So like we said, it's a 25-day blueprint. So every single day, you're going to have your lesson for that day written up and then you're also going to have some little tasks of what to do after you finish day 1 that you can, keep a checklist for yourself, especially if you're like OCD or even if you're not, this is perfect for you to keep track of everything
Hmm.
because that way you can see what you have to do instead of having to, go through everything and then make your own list and maybe you forget something. So it is quite literally the most simplest blueprint, I think, ever because it
Same.
is all in like Google Sheet and Google Doc, that each day is going to take you to its own separate page that you can
Mhm.
focus on for the day. It's not all like bombarded like an ebook sometimes is, where
Mhm.
everything is just there at once and you are skipping around all the time. So just
Mhm.
make sure that you do take it from like day 1 to day 2 to day 3 and take your time. So day 1 is all about getting started. It's a little bit about starting your own social media page. It's about figuring out your niche path. It's about how to set up your business accounts and the legalities of everything. Not like so much of the legalities, just like we touch on it and what you will be needing to do. And then, legalities has its own separate day. But this is all just the first kind of steps of like, okay, you want to start your own business, you want to be a social media manager. Here are the things that you need to think about before you go diving into like a business name or branding or legalities or even social media platforms. So that's just like the first step in figuring out what you even need to do, because a lot of people, I think, just think they want to become a social media manager. They're like, great, I'm going to make a social media account and then just start posting. Like that is
Mhm.
the only thing. And then the legalities and the branding and the business name and the services come after the fact. And that's kind of what I did. And I was like, this, like, it completely was the
Wrong.
opposite
Wrong.
of, yeah, what I should have been doing. So then I had to go back and, figure all this stuff out myself. And I think this is why we're doing this in the first place. We've both done, you've done a guide, I have done a course before. And
Mhm.
I just think combining this into a simple format like this is going to help so many people avoid all that time spent researching and trying to figure out what to do, and just have those steps. Like, I wish I had something like this when I was first starting, because I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I made a social media account and like that was the most I did
That was the
to start
extent
my
of my
business.
setup, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, mine was just so backwards, like, in the entire thing, like, I
Mhm.
was doing services before I even technically
Same.
had a business, so, yeah, so if I could go back, this would definitely be the first, because we tried to keep the to-do lists on each of the things, like, relatively short, like, not in a bad way, but just in a way where it's like, here is literally what is most important. Like, this is non-negotiable.
Mhm.
So, I mean, even just for the getting started page, we have 5 things on the to-do list. Like, it's not an overwhelming amount. Like, you're not opening this up and being like, "Oh my god, I have
Oh my
1
god.
million things that I
Mhm.
need to do." Like, you're looking at each step individually, and I think taking a super strategic approach to it by just following what you know needs to be done. And exactly
Mhm.
like you said, we're not, I like how we introduce things along the way. So, for example, in the first day, we do introduce the legal and the accountant support and just how important it is to invest in professionals to help you with those services. And then a couple days later, we dive into actually finding those services for
Mhm.
you. So I like that we kind of plant the seed early on for a lot of things, just so you're
Yeah.
not like totally taken aback by it when you get to that day. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, that's just a roundup of what's inside of that first day. We'll just kind of start to move you along the path. And then we move into some of the more fun stuff, but also where some of like the legal stuff comes in. So day 2 is all about naming your business, which might seem like a super easy decision for some people, or you might have had a name in your mind for a long time, but you have to make sure that you're researching that and making sure it's not trademarked, making sure the social media handles are available, and we have all of that
Mhm.
in here, and just making sure you're running the legal searches for it to make sure you're not taking a name that is already in use. Um, we also include some resources in here that, like, for example, where I live, I have to have LLC on the end of my business name. Like, my business name is legally Page Media Company LLC.
So is mine, yeah.
Yeah, and that might be something everywhere. I just know for a fact it's here. Um,
Mhm.
and then, kind of playing off of that, the next day we go into branding, which is all about branding yourself. But what we also hope with this day is you take a lot of this information and use it for your clients too. Like, if you are bringing on a client and you're like, well, how do I know what their colors are? Like, send them the branding questionnaire, because that's something that
Mhm.
we include in there. We have mood boards for you, we have brand kits for you, we have templates for literally so many templates are in this thing between the two of us. Like every template that
Yes.
we had is in this thing. And then we move into the legality side for day 4.
Yeah, I feel like this is something a lot of students and even like starting social media managers struggle with is like they don't understand the legalities part of it, which is hard. Like a lot of us
Yeah.
don't. I still don't really
No, I have
get all of
no
it.
idea.
So that's why you have to work with a professional, but it's we also add in like our experiences with,
Mhm.
if you listen to previous episodes, like I had a nightmare of a tax season and it was because of the person that was doing my taxes. So, like, choosing the right person is so crucial, and being a part of the entire process and understanding the legalities part of it is important. And that's something you also have to consider when you're starting a business. You don't just get to do all the fun stuff all the time. Like, you do have to do the not so fun shit, like handling taxes and the legalities of everything, and having a professional to help obviously is amazing, but you still need to be a part of that and understand how your business works on the back end. So,
Mhm.
it's not just, the fun aspects of your just running social media accounts. A lot goes into it on the legal side, especially like your bank accounts, your bookkeeping, your accounting. So we have so many resources in there, especially in this chapter. We might not be the ones giving you the legal advice, but we share our experience with it and then how
Mhm.
to set that up so you aren't stuck at the end of the year being like, oh my God, I have no idea what to do. I didn't know I had to put this much money away. I
Mhm.
don't have a tax professional that works with small businesses or like even freelancers, so that's important to note too. So yeah, a lot of our advice about legalities, and this is something I wish that I learned about in the beginning because I didn't know what I was doing, and then once tax season came around, I was like, "Oh, I haven't been paying quarterly taxes for my business,
Mhm.
so here's thousands of dollars that I could have been saving on the side if I knew." Because it's not like you're a W-2 employee, it's different. So, a
Right.
lot about that, I think that is super important before you get into business and before you even start promoting your services, is to just have those things set up. So on that day, which is day 4, it might take you a hot second to get through everything, which is okay. But
Mhm.
then we do like move on to a little bit more fun stuff. It's a little fun, it's a little business, a little fun, a little business. We move on to some social platforms, like how to create your channels, the difference between, business versus creator accounts, our experience with them. We move on to like your services and figuring out what type of packages you need to develop for yourself, listing client requirements and all of the services that you can offer as a social media manager, because there's so much
Mhm.
out there, I think, where I've been seeing a lot of content like this. It's like, here's what I offer in my package for blah, blah, blah. And it's like
Mhm.
content creation and photo shoots, and it's like Photoshop editor, it's videography. Like, they have professional cameras, and some of those things are just not what a social media manager is responsible for. So
Mhm.
we listed out a lot of things that you could offer, but also that you don't have to offer. And it's not a part of being a social media manager because there's so much noise around that and what you should be offering.
Yeah, and we have like a whole workbook in there that really takes you from like looking at an entire list of services that you can offer to everything that you need to know about that service. So like once you pick a service, we'll walk you through, list out everything that you would have to do for this service, list out everything that the client would have to do for this service. So
Mhm.
that way when we move into the next day, which is actually building your packages, cuz think of your services like the bricks and the packages are like the buildings that you're building with the bricks. So,
Mhm.
like, your services day is focused on figuring out, okay, what skill sets do you have? What do you enjoy doing? What's realistic for you to do? And then the next day, we kind of move into putting those into packages. But we walk you through all of that during the services day so that when you are building your packages, like, okay, maybe you want to offer, like you said, video, photo, content, social management, engagement, community, ads, blah, blah, blah. You want to offer all this stuff and you go to put that into a package and you're like, holy shit, this package would take up 30 hours a week if I were to offer it to
Yeah.
somebody. Like it just really helps you to visualize what's realistic to include in your packages. But then also something that I personally don't see a lot of people talking about that I like that we made it a point to touch on is what the requirements are of your clients for these things too. So like if you
Mhm.
go into it with, okay, we're posting 5 reels a week, 5 feed posts, 20 stories, blah, 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 and you're not providing the content shoots for that person, like you need to make sure
Right.
that your client is aware that every week they need to be sending you X amount of content. So then once we figure out your services, we figure out your packages, we move into pricing, which we have a whole episode on this. So it's not like we haven't talked about any of this before, but we also kind of talk about a couple different pricing structures. Like you can either, do long-term contracts, you can do short-term contracts, just however the pricing structure works for you.
And I know we include this too in the episode that we did about pricing, the pricing calculator.
Mhm.
So this is also included in here as well because there is just again so much fluff about pricing and everyone's pricing is going to be different. So it's not like we
Mhm.
could just be like, okay, this package should be this much or we charge X amount because all of our services, all of our packages, even if we were on the same exact package, the way that we work is different. It could take
Mhm.
me 3 times longer than it took you to edit a video, for example, things like that. So it's
Mhm.
always going to be different. And I think that's why people don't always share what they charge for their
Yes.
packages because you shouldn't just copy paste what someone else is doing. But this will help you so much where it spits out all of the numbers as long as you just input like okay how many clients do you want to have, what is the
Mhm.
goal revenue for you to reach every single month, and like is that realistic with say like 4 or 5 clients, or do you need like 3 to 4 clients depending on what your income goals are, and
Mhm.
you just put in how long everything takes you, just like we talked about on the pricing episode. Figuring out how long something takes you before you can even come up with pricing is huge, so
Mhm.
you do actually need to do the work before you price your packages because you don't know what to price if you don't know how long it takes you. So
Yes, or
that's
something that
included
you
in that.
think might take you an hour ends up taking you 3, and you don't realize that until
Mhm.
you actually get into doing the work, and you're like, "Okay, well, now I'm, like, undercharging myself." And we
Right.
go over all of that too in here. I think it might be in the pricing day, but it might be in one of the boundary days. Yeah, definitely pricing, is one of my favorite days that we have in here. But then also the next
Mhm.
one, portfolio, is also one of my favorite days because I personally think a portfolio is one of the only things that you need to actively start attracting clients. Like you could have literally nothing. And if you have a portfolio, people are like, okay, let me see the work that you've done.
Yep.
So basically, what we do in the portfolio day is we have some templates in there for you, to actually create your portfolio, either like through a Canva design or on a Canva bio link, or we show you examples of both of our portfolios. But what we also do is include some strategies for if you haven't done any previous work to have in a portfolio, what both of us did in the beginning to start building our portfolio. And then we also talk a little bit about passion projects and just like taking maybe your favorite makeup brand and giving it a feed makeover and using that in your portfolio. And obviously, you need to be very transparent with that. Like, don't go into it being like, yeah, I redid Rare Beauty's Instagram account. We go over some strategies for that, just how to build up your portfolio, how to approach somebody to ask if you could exchange a content shoot in exchange for a testimonial into your portfolio. Like, we have literally every step to building your portfolio. So that's one of my favorite days in here.
There's a ton of templates from Etsy that you could get to. I think like that's a really good starting point too for when you're beginning all of this is like Etsy templates and
Mhm.
having it like be your branding, but waiting until you actually have branding to get those Etsy templates because I remember like purchasing so many different ones
Mhm.
and they were all different. And I'm like, this looks so dumb when I'm sending a proposal
Yeah.
versus when I'm like sending like the welcome packet. They look so
Mhm.
different because I didn't get it from the same person. So
Right.
I was like, oh my God, this
Yeah.
looks so bad.
That's why I try to every template I ever make, I try to keep it like very black and white, which one is my branding,
Hmm.
but two, it's easily adaptable like into other branding. And then all of our templates in here that are in Canva are super easy to edit. So like if you click on one thing to change the color of it, you can click the option to change everything that's colored. That is that
Yeah.
color. So it's super easy to make our templates into your branding, but they're super generic right now, just like black and white. So they're super easy to integrate
Hmm.
into your process too. Or honestly, even taking these templates and creating your own from it. Like just open a Google Doc with this template open and be like, okay, here's everything that they have in their onboarding questionnaire. Like, do I need all of this in there? Or just pull the information from it that you need and then maybe find another template that matches your branding more, or just turn ours into your branding. But we move on to a landing page. So this was kind of one of the big things that we were like, okay, what is something that we need to like really make sure people know that you don't need to spend a lot of time or money on
Mhm.
in the beginning. And that
Yep.
was a website. Like I didn't have a website for the first like full year of having an Instagram account for my business. Anybody that tells you you need a website right from the beginning is probably just a website designer trying to push their services. But it's
Right.
not, if you have like this disposable income, like, sure, go spend thousands of dollars to have a custom website built right from the beginning. If you're a product business, obviously a little bit different. But as a social
Yeah.
media manager, there's like three main links that you need to have, and they need to be readily available. And that doesn't require a full website. Like we include all different options. We both use Snipfeed. I've used Stan in the past, Linktree, Canva bio link. Like there's so many options. And
Yeah, and most clients are gonna find you on social media,
hmm
so make sure your social media page is the portfolio for them to be like, "I wanna work
hmm
with this person," and we'll go into that too, like, on social media, what you should be posting and, coming up with schedules and whatnot, so you don't need a website right away, and I think a lot of
hmm
website designers would be like, "No, yes, you do, because
yeah.
you need to show your work and you need to show about you," and it's
I
like
mean, in a perfect
having us.
scenario, yes,
Right, yeah, of
but
course.
not
I built
realistic.
my own on, like, Wix, and I'm pretty sure I talked about that in there too, of
hmm
just you can build your own and, like, do this, like, simple website, and it's
hmm
free, or it's, like, $11 a month or something, so if that's,
hmm
like, something up your alley or you wanna use, like, a template, you can do that, and we'll talk all about that too, but just to keep in mind, yeah, you don't need to do all that shit in the
hmm
beginning. Day 11, our favorite number, attracting ideal clients. I think this is a really fun one too, because in the beginning I was like, oh, I just need to comment on like all these businesses' pages
hmm
and I need to just like cold DM everybody. And it never worked out for me. And we just list out some ways that we attract our ideal clients, how we've landed clients by either like offering them something for free, they're going into the business physically. And we'll touch a lot on attracting your ideal clients because it's exactly how we have our perfect roster of clients right now and how we got
hmm
here, how we perform market research, because you can't attract your ideal clients if you have not done any market research or actually talk to these businesses that you think you want to work with.
hmm
um, you know Answering a questionnaire about who you want to work with. In the beginning, I think I just was like, "Oh, I wanna work with this person, this person, this person," and then when I actually did get on market research calls, I was like, "No, they're not my ideal client at all." So,
hmm
we help you figure out how to, land those clients, but also to make sure and confirm that those are the people that you genuinely want to work with and not just because, you think of the industry and you think they're easy to work with. It
hmm
could be the opposite, and it's been proven that that happens.
Yes. But day 11 kind of starts this cool like pivot inside of the blueprint, because everything that we have talked about from this day prior to this day is all about basically everything that you need to do before you start actually communicating with clients. Once we hit day 11 and start going over kind of how to attract your ideal clients and figuring out who your ideal clients are,
Mhm.
day 12 leads us into boundaries, which we can just touch like super briefly on. But basically, we want to help you establish your working boundaries, how you're going to communicate with your clients, what your working hours are, how to set up a calendar that works for you, um, and just really keep yourself in check and keep your clients in check as well for mental health purposes, just to make sure you're not overworking yourself or don't know how to say no to certain things, or allowing a client
Mhm.
to, text you at midnight to change something for in the morning. But the reason I wanted to say that was because day 12 is where we kind of like, I want it like we're giving you these tools and then we're kind of sending you into actually working with clients. So day 13 starts workflows.
Mhm.
So workflows is where we're going to touch very briefly on, because again, we're just kind of planting the seed here with a bunch of like buzzwords and keywords that you'll need to know kind of going through your actual process of working with a client. So the workflows, again, we'll touch on everything in separate days, but we just wanted to start
Mhm.
introducing to you these terms because it's really going to depend on what services you're offering. It's going to depend on how you're working with your clients, what your actual workflow will be. But the
Mhm.
next four steps are basically everything that like. There is not a way to not include these in your workflow. So we wanted to make sure that we covered them. But yeah, day 11 and 12 is kind of almost halfway through where you start to kind of shift into, okay, we're actually working with clients now. And you can go through all of this before you're actually working with a client. But it's kind of like that cool halfway point where you're like, okay, all of my foundation stuff is up.
Yep.
Now it's time to start doing the fun stuff of working with clients, which leads us into the first step of your workflow, and that is discovery calls.
And that's like the really exciting part once you do have everything established is now you're ready to get on calls with these potential clients and you have all the systems and the setups to be able to present them something. So much of the time
Mhm.
I feel like we get DMs like this where they're like, I don't know what to do after the discovery call. What do I send?
Mhm.
Or like, I don't have any contracts or I don't have the legalities or like a separate business account for these things.
Mhm.
So having all of that set up before you actually start jumping on calls with people. And I know it's better like sometimes to I hear a lot of people say they're like, "Oh, just start and everything else will fall into place." But like truly I wish that I had all those things in the beginning because then
Mhm.
I would be more confident on discovery calls. Like setting up like the branding questionnaire or like the discovery
Mhm.
call questions or even having a Calendly page of where people can book calls instead of, emailing back and forth. What day are you free? Oh, I'm free this day. Oh, well, I can't do that day. Can you do this
Mhm.
time? And it's just the constant back and forth. You want to make it as seamless as possible in the beginning
Mhm.
for your potential client to be able to book this call with you at, the time that is convenient for you, but also for them. So we walk you through like how to set up the discovery call booking page, how to do the discovery call questions, like what they should answer before they jump on the call with you.
Mhm.
And we have like a whole list of the questions that we have on our, discovery call pages and then actually having that call with them, the questions you should be asking on the call, because again, this is you interviewing them, not them interviewing you. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of people have this backwards where they get so nervous and they're like, they're interviewing me. Like, I need to be
Mhm.
right for them. And it's
Mhm.
the opposite way around. You're a business owner and you're in charge, and you have to set up those boundaries in the beginning of the call. And you're the one leading, not them. So we talk a lot about that on discovery calls because it is intimidating getting on a call with somebody you don't know or like
Mhm.
how to get them
For the first
to
time.
want
Yeah.
to to want to book with you and to work with you. So
Mhm.
being as much yourself as you can, but also establishing that boundary where it's like, I'm leading this call
Mhm.
and you're the one that's going to be telling them like, okay, I'm going to be sending you a proposal after this. If everything looks right, we're going to be signing a contract together. Just having those steps for them so you aren't getting on a call and you're like, hi, and they're like waiting for you
Okay.
to say something and it's like, okay, so tell me about your business. And
Mhm.
it's I mean, I was like this in the beginning. I just like waited for them to
Ask
tell me like what
questions.
they
Yeah.
yeah, to ask anything, and I'm like, "Okay, sure, I'll send you this, and this, and, like, you can
Mhm.
look it over and just let me know, but, like, no rush, and it's okay if you don't wanna work with me." Like, I was just so unprepared and
Mhm.
young too, I think it was
Yeah,
tough
for
to
sure.
do that. But anyway, after the discovery call, you will be sending your client a proposal probably. There's a little back and forth. I remember I took a course where it was like you need to sign the client on the discovery call. So I think it just depends on the industry you're in, but I think proposals are so important. And that's why we included like a customized proposal template for you, researching contracts and agreements and where to find contracts and agreements. Cause again, we're not lawyers to be able to give you all of these, but we
Mhm.
do share, our opinions and our thoughts about how legality should be taken, especially in a contract, like how to
Mhm.
structure them, the minimum time you'll be working together. And it also depend, like we said before, like on the state or the country that you're in
Mhm.
about the legalities, especially if they're in a different state, just the way that that'll work. But you always want to have a contract and you always want to make sure your proposal looks professional. So we add a little bit of a recap of what should be included in there. We add a template. Day 16, we'll talk about invoice and payment systems because once you sign the contract, they need to send you the first invoice. I was so confused on like how to accept invoices. I remember like, was I going to be taking checks? Was I going to do Venmo? I did
Mhm.
Venmo for a long time. And I feel like, did you do Venmo too in the beginning?
No, because I was
No.
scared of that. That was
See,
well,
I didn't
I
know
guess like
anything.
yeah, I guess technically yes. but it was barely when I like, it was when I was being paid like $200 a month. So I
Right.
just kind of,
Same.
which like I probably shouldn't be encouraging anybody to do this, but like there's definitely like a solid 6 months of my business that like that money just like was never accounted for anywhere, which is really
No.
bad because I lived in like a constant state of anxiety, like thinking I
Mhm.
was gonna go to jail over like $100. Like
Oh,
I
same.
was
Yeah, I didn't
so
know
scared.
anything, and somebody said it to me, and they were like, "You know that they'll, like, take a lot of fees, and you're
Yes.
gonna have to pay taxes on that." And I'm like, "No, it's Venmo, like, it's fine."
Yeah, no,
So,
Venmo's
yeah,
a
that's one
horrible
thing.
idea. So like just avoid that at
Terrible.
all costs. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's definitely different. Like I used HoneyBook for a long time and I loved
Yeah.
HoneyBook, but it just had so many features that I wasn't using
It's a lot.
yeah, and it's great for like photographers and stuff and it is
Mhm.
really good for automating your workflow. Like they do have a lot of
Yeah.
really cool ways to like automatically send a questionnaire, so like automatically send your welcome guide, which we'll talk about in the next day. But it really just depends on what is going to work for you because all of these platforms are an investment. All of them take different percentages of what you make. So I mean, I currently use Stripe and I love it. um
Same.
yeah, but there's a lot. We just talk a lot about like the different options. We talk about the different ways that you can invoice your clients. Like I like to offer all of my clients the option to go on to auto pay just so that it's one less thing that they have to worry about like manually paying every month.
Mhm.
And so we talk about like different ways to approach what your actual payment schedules and invoicing process will look like. But yeah, that's basically not the final step of the workflow because we do have a welcome guide in here that after your client has signed the contract, paid their invoice, send a welcome guide. And what's inside of this welcome guide, you're going to have your working hours, how you're going to communicate. You're going to have links to different Google Drive files that your client can
Mhm.
upload their logos into and their brand kits. And we have questionnaires that you'll send them.
Even though, like, some people might not send welcome guides, I feel like
It just
having
sets
that.
you up for success, and everybody
Yeah.
has the information. And you can't tell me you didn't
Everyone's just
have the
prepared.
information.
After
Yeah.
all of the work that you did, with, like, the branding questionnaires and setting up the strategy and just all of the work that goes into even setting up these client accounts and your relationship with them, I think a welcome
Hmm.
guide is refreshing to be like, "Okay, now that we have all this, here's the next steps," and it just sets you up for success in the beginning with your client and sets those boundaries too, because that's what you'll
Hmm.
include in there as well, like your working hours and the the payment systems and how they can pay you and just everything that is going to be your day to day and in your working relationship will be included in
Hmm.
there. And I think it is important. So I'm glad we covered that. Then day 18, we go onto onboarding and offboarding. Onboarding does include, your welcome guide and the invoices. That's still technically your onboarding, but this will
This is where
go a
you
little
really
bit,
get into it.
yeah, the actual setup of your client accounts, your onboarding questionnaire template, your organization, like how you're going to put everything into either Google Drive or like Dropboxes, and
Hmm.
just setting each client up for success and for them to be able to access everything easily. We share like how we organize our client work and like the each of the folders that we do, but also a lot of people don't talk about offboarding because
Hmm.
that is something that you will probably have to do. It's inevitable that you'll stop working with a client and it's not
That's
just a see
okay,
you
but
see
it's
you
important.
later, and
Yeah, it's
yes, it's very
important to go
important.
about it in a
It'll
strategic way.
happen. Mhm. And you wanna make sure that you're ending things on a good note if you are able to,
Hmm.
but we just include some steps of what to send to your client when you're offboarding. We have a checklist on here as well of what you need to make sure you're doing when you're
Hmm.
offboarding, so you can always refer back to that.
And then we talk a little bit about analytic tracking. It's really good for clients to see the actual data behind what you're doing. Like it's different going to them and being like, well, we've gained X amount of followers. When you have an entire analytic report put together, you can be like, okay, well, look at how much it changed from here to here. Day 20, we just wanted to make sure we had in here. It's a list of hard conversations that you might need to have with your clients at some point. We also are always, for anybody inside of the blueprint, we will always take requests for that chapter. So just always like DM us, like if you know of a situation with a client that you don't know how to approach or don't know how to
Mhm.
have that conversation. We will always be updating this one just because I think random and unique situations happen all the time that might help somebody else to hear. Day 21 is all about content strategy. And like I said before, our goal with this information is not only for you to use this to start creating your own content strategy and how to create content that's going to attract your ideal clients, but also for you to carry that information over into creating a strategy for your clients.
Yeah, the way to plan a content strategy and the
Mhm.
difference between like a social media strategy versus a content strategy. I know we just had an episode about this too, of the
Mhm.
difference between the two, because they aren't the same and you do need both of them. But then your content strategy will then lead you into your content calendar, like how to set up a content calendar with your clients, because it's not just going to be, random posting or whenever you want. So we have a few different paid calendar options. We have some free calendar options for you. So just depending on the services that you're offering, we list out the way you can organize yourself and have these systems in place. And again, it's not just like a one size fits all. We include a few different ones, and then like we write which ones we use for our clients. Just because we use them doesn't mean you have to, but
Mhm.
those resources are there. And then we also have on day 23 a list of content resources for you. So like what we use in our business on a daily basis. So from things like Canva to like where we edit our videos, where we edit our photos.
In the future, if we ever come across a new resource or think of another resource that we use often that we want to add
Hmm.
on there, where we'll probably keep that one updated too, just because new things
Yeah.
are always coming out. But everything that's on there right now is all you need. Like bare minimum, all you need. Most of them are free that are on there. It's just to help you kind of start to explore different ways to create content, and that's totally up to you if that's even an avenue that you're going to pursue for clients. Like you might say, I'm more interested in like the captions and copywriting and stuff like that, not so much creating the actual content, and that's totally fine. But if you do plan on, promoting your own business on Instagram, you will have to make your own content. So we just want to make sure that we included
Hmm.
those in there. And then the last 2 days, so this is kind of where the content, all back end workflows, like everything is there, it's in place. You are basically ready at this point and equipped with all of the tools to bring a client on. And the last 2 days are helping you accomplish that. So day 24 is for outreach. So we are big believers that doing what you love will eventually attract the people that you want it to attract, but we also are not sit around and wait for shit to happen kind of people. So
Yeah.
we both do outreach. We both have done outreach. It has gotten us both some really cool opportunities. So we will always encourage people to do the outreach. And this too, I think, is really important for helping you. How are we explaining what your business does? How are you going to be presenting that information to people? Like, are you going to print business
Hmm.
cards and go talk to people in person? Are you going to come up with a script for an email that you're going to send out? And we have like an outreach template that you can use to keep track of who you've reached out to, what day you reached out, what their response was, if you need to follow up, like basically a client relation tool that we have in
Yeah.
here. But personally, I love outreach. I think outreach is one of the most important things that you can do. And I think eventually it becomes less important for consuming your time because your social media will eventually help to start attracting those people and you don't have to do as much of the footwork. But in the beginning, I think it's super important to like be screaming your business from the rooftops.
Oh,
So,
yeah. And then once you land on day 25, you get a daily checklist. These are things that we do every single day and we recommend following just to make sure that you are doing things on time, making sure that you don't overlook or like miss something, especially for your posting or like your clients posting.
mhm.
Just a nice recap of things that you can do every single day to set your business up for success in those first couple stages. So we have a little daily checklist that you can always refer back to, and you can even like copy and paste this onto like your to-do list every single day and then
Mhm.
just check it off or like write it down.
Yes. And I think something that's super important to note that we might not have made very clear in the beginning. So, this entire blueprint is through Google Sheets and Google Docs. So, what's going to happen when you download this blueprint is the way that we have it set up is every different day on the blueprint inside of the Google Sheet has its own Google Doc of notes attached to it. When you click on that doc to see the notes for that day, it's not showing it to you in like a PDF form. It's actually copying that doc into your drive so then you can type right on there. So a lot of the days that we have in there are
Mhm.
meant to be used almost as like a workbook. And the reason that we wanted to do it that way is so that you're not having to like organize it yourself and open a Google Doc and okay, I'm writing down my answers to these questions on day 6. Like no, we have it all separated. It's all organized for you. When you copy that doc into your Google Drive, you're able to type your responses right in there. Like when you're going through and doing your branding, like answer the questions right in there. When you're doing your market research, you can use that Google Doc as the template for when you get
Mhm.
on the research calls. Like we really wanted to make sure that it wasn't something that you had to use anything else in order to use the blueprint. Like the only thing you need
Yep.
to use in the blueprint is the blueprint and the Google Docs that come attached to it. But I just wanted to make sure
Mhm.
that we made that like very clear that when you're going into these things, so like that daily checklist, like it's actually on a checklist that you can click the things off of. You can just copy and paste that as many times as you need it or copy it to wherever you need it. But all of this
Mhm.
is completely typable inside of, it's editable. I don't even know if either of those things are a word, but I just think that's very important to put in there that it's interactive. It's not just us
Yeah,
giving you a PDF download that you're going to look at and read the information once and never do anything with. Like,
I agree. And I also want to note that when you are going through this, we highly, highly recommend that you only focus on this blueprint and taking it
mhm,
each day at a time because there are so many courses, there's so many coaches, there's so much information, especially online. And let's be real, you can find all this information online. A thousand
mhm,
percent. We're never going to be the coaches or the social media managers that sit here and be like, you can't find any of this on the internet and like
mhm.
you need to pay thousands of dollars to find out this information. It's like, no, everything is free on the internet. Will it take you 5 times longer to figure this
Mhm.
out? 10 times longer? Yes, because that's what I had to do. And it took
Right.
me so long to be able to have these systems and figure out the right way to do these things because everyone has
Mhm.
their own way, right? So,
I think it's important to note that yes, a lot of like the foundational information in there is
yeah.
very like, yeah, this is just information that you could Google and find out. But I think we have a lot of very unique approaches and very unique
Mhm.
strategies to a lot of this stuff that we have in
Yes.
there. Plus, we're giving you like all of the templates and everything. So it's not like we're saying
Yep.
we just Googled these questions and put it into a
Right.
doc and are selling it to you. But
Yes.
yeah, a lot of this is very foundational. And that's why I also agree. It might sound very like, I don't know, conceited of us to say, like, don't listen to any other coach while you're going through this. But
Mhm.
it is very easy to get overwhelmed. And it's
Yes.
a lot easier if you just focus all of your effort into one learning source. And it's
Mhm.
like we said, 25 days, a little over 3 weeks, a little under 4 weeks. Like, it's not like we're saying only focus on this for the rest of your life. Like, for your entire business, this is all you can
Right.
have. No, we're just saying while you're going through this, it's best to tune out every other opinion. And that's not to say
Yes.
that we think everything we're saying is the only way to do things, but it's a lot easier, at least if you're familiar with some of these topics, to then research on your own where else you want to learn from. But
Yeah, it's our own unique experience and strategies that I think will help people. And another thing I want to note about it is something like this that I see so many freaking social media managers and coaches doing is they're charging thousands and thousands of
oh, yeah,
dollars.
no.
And that has just never been our thing with this. Like,
Hmm.
we never wanted this to be something that isn't accessible for a lot of people or is too expensive or it's high ticket. And
Hmm.
maybe in the future we'll create something that is high ticket for, after those first steps and those foundations.
A
Now you're
little more
ready to
intensive. Yeah.
scale your business or like you're ready to grow a little bit more and figure out the more difficult things in business. But for right now, like it is a low ticket blueprint and we
Hmm.
want to be able to just help as many people as possible. So you'll be able to find everything and a little bit more detail in it. If you like the written version of seeing something, you'll be able to see this as well in the link in our bio on our landing page. We'll also include it in the show notes under this
Hmm.
episode.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, probably important to note too, when you're listening to this episode, that means it's out right now. Same
Oh,
day, it's
yeah.
coming out.
Yeah, it's out.
I'm like, did we even say when it's
We did
coming
no
out? So
promo for
it's
this
today.
because
Yeah, well, and that's what I was gonna say too, is like in the beginning, we really just wanted to get this out there. And that's not to say that it was rushed or that we like didn't pour our entire hearts into it, because we've been working on this for months, but
yeah.
we were like, okay, it's ready. Like, let's just put it out now, because there's literally no point in waiting for everything to be perfect or waiting until we've promoted it for a month. Like, let's
Yeah.
just put it out. We'll promote it afterwards. But we know there
Yeah.
are people that need this information ASAP.
Mhm.
And we are incredibly happy and honored to provide that for you. So let us know what you think. Thank you so much for trusting us on this journey with you. We can't wait for you to see the blueprint. And we love you guys so much.
Love you so much. Bye.
Bye.